Hi, what's up? My name is Adam, and you are on Cyber Raccoon channel. Today I keep talking about the best Cyberpunk games that came out after 2000. Watch the video to the end, subscribe our channel, and you will always be aware of what to play today. Satellite Rain. Another tactical game in real time, the events of which will take players to a large city, sparkling with neon lights, with its mega corporations, bandits and slums, in general, all in the best traditions of cyberpunk. Here is in M.E.R.C. The player is given control of 4 characters, whose task is to survive at any cost. However, Satellite Rain differs from the latest in greater freedom of action, a more branched and variable role-playing and tactical system, a more lively and interesting world. A tactical action game where the player will have to take command of a squad of 4 fighters and fight another powerful and very bad corporation. And then at once and with several. Despite the pronounced tactical element with the ability to split the squad into 2 groups, the gameplay, including battles, takes place in real time. Each fighter can be improved by opening access to new passive and active skills, as well as changing his equipment and weapons to more advanced ones. The game has a cooperative that allows you to go through both the main missions of the company and additional tasks with a friend. Syndicate, a 2012 cyberpunk shooter that rebooted the 1993 game of the same name. Events take place in 2069, where a fierce and uncompromising struggle is waged between several powerful corporations, syndicates. The main character is just an experienced cybernetically improved fighter of one of them. The fact is that in addition to a solid arsenal of weapons, most of which completely copies existing samples in our time, the hero can use a chip embedded in his body and collect data on opponents, and then program them for certain actions, suicide, attacking comrades, or temporary loss of combat capability. The chip also allows the hero to see through walls and even slow down time. There are also elements of hand-to-hand combat. Raw Data, a futuristic action game designed for virtual reality helmets, the plot of which is based on the story of the confrontation between a powerful corporation and a syndicate of hackers, one of whose members is the main character. Raw Data has a pronounced atmosphere of science fiction of the late 80s, elements of surrealism. The developers themselves insist on this in the description of the game, although in our opinion, the game environment does not demonstrate anything too absurd, irrational or paradoxical, and very addictive gameplay. Built on the ability to shoot from 2 hands and cut with a katana, countless crowds of corporation robots, literally pounding on the hero from all sides. Sometimes it even makes your head spin. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, a spin-off of the famous Metal Gear series, which is a hurricane slasher with a cybernetic ninja Raiden as the main character. The main advantages of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance are dynamic and beautiful battles against various robots, dangerous and memorable bosses, great soundtrack that adds dynamism to the gameplay, familiar setting for Metal Gear fans, and epic cutscenes. A pleasant variety in the game is made by the availability of several types of weapons, mainly all sorts of high-tech blades, and costumes for the main character, as well as the ability to pump Raiden, opening up new skills for him. Ruiner, an isometric action game about a distant and dark future. The main character is a militant cyborg who takes to the streets of Rencot Metropolis in order to cleanse it of the criminals and corrupt officials behind the kidnapping of his brother. The battles in Ruiner take place at an insane pace and with impressive special effects. The hero spectacularly and mercilessly deals with crowds of enemies, using various types of weapons and his superpowers, which were considered the result of the implantation of complex implants. Another undoubted advantage of the game is the memorable and incendiary OST, donated to Ruiner by a whole galaxy of talented performers, and fits perfectly into the surroundings and gameplay of the action. Surge. Working for a powerful mega corporation armed with the most advanced and sophisticated technologies in the world is a dream. So thought the protagonist, who joined the ranks of the glorious employees of Creo, the best corporation striving to make the world a better place. However, excitement gave way to horror when the next day he woke up among the ruins and raging robots, the result of a monstrous disaster. The only chance for salvation is a powerful exoskeleton and high-tech tools that replace armor and weapons for the hero. Surge is the real Dark Souls in terms of the difficulty and fun of the battles. The biggest difference between the two is the cyberpunk setting in Surge and dark fantasy in the glorious Dark Souls. Also, in the combat system of projects, a wonderful opportunity has appeared to deliver an aimed strike, choosing a zone on the body of the enemy or one of his limbs, which is implemented in the form of spectacular finishing moves with time dilation. Invisible Incorporated. You are the head of a spy agency in the not-too-distant future with the best experts in the field of stealth infiltration with the aim of stealing information. Your task is to coordinate the actions of your wards, infiltrating the offices of the largest corporations around the world in order to steal classified materials from there and sell them for a tidy sum to interested parties. Gameplay. Invisible Incorporated is a tactical turn-based RPG focused on stealth rather than open combat. The player gets at his disposal a team of 10 gradually unlockable agents with unique skills, which can be pumped in several directions at their discretion. Also at Invisible Incorporated there is procedural world generation, random missions, and permanent death. Dex. One of the best 2D cyberpunk RPG games that offers a thrilling adventure in a 2D open world of the near future. The neon-filled streets of the metropolis, where dirty and dangerous slums coexist with chic high-tech neighborhoods, bad megacorporations waging an endless confrontation between themselves for power and influence, ingenious hackers and cyborgs stuffed with implants. All this awaits the players in Dex. In addition to the addictive dark futuristic atmosphere of Dex and its non-linear gameplay, the player freely moves around the world, fights with various opponents or bypasses them using stealth, picks locks and computers, participates in interactive dialogues with NPCs, and so on. Much attention has been paid to character leveling, skills, costumes, weapons, implants, and all this in huge quantities for every taste. Transistor takes players on an exciting journey through the grandiose futuristic hand-drawn city of Cloudbank, telling a touching and unusual story of love and loss along the way. The gameplay is an action game that combines real-time with a strategic planning mode. The main character is armed with a huge sword and learns new types of blows as she progresses. Also, for eliminating enemies, the heroine receives experience points, which can then be used to learn new passive and active skills, called functions in Transistor. By combining these features, the player can create thousands of very different combinations. Vallhalla, Cyberpunk Bartender Action. A visual novel in the genre of dystopian cyberpunk, in which the player will have to try on the role of a 27-year-old barmaid from a drinking establishment located in the heart of the huge glitch metropolis. The game is non-linear, although there is no direct choice in the dialogues. You can influence the state and further actions of the interlocutor's clients with the help of cocktails, the composition of which the player prepares himself. The graphics in Vallhalla are pixelated. The plot is full of adult humor, which, together with music and other features, creates an atmosphere in the game reminiscent of old fantastic Japanese novels. Furi. The main character is a mysterious samurai who is imprisoned in an unusual prison. To escape to freedom, he needs to defeat several unique bosses, the battle with which is a real test for the player's endurance and nerves. The gameplay is a hardcore action game with an isometric view, using the mechanics of a twin-stick shooter and slasher, where the only opponents are bosses. Each world is a unique boss, with its own story and fighting style, guarding the door to the next world. The graphics in Furi have a sloppy, but at the same time very bright picture, clearly indicating its indie origin. The game was created by the independent studio The Game Bakers. Also, one cannot fail to note a very vigorous and memorable soundtrack. Divine Cybermancy. Co-op shooter from independent developer Streamon Studio, which takes place in a dark cyberpunk environment. A squad of 4 players acts as a combat unit of the rebel organization Secreta Secretorum, fighting against the Federation, a political coalition that has conquered many planets and ruled by a brutal dictator. Among the features of the game, one can note a rather unusual system of psychological trauma and a deep simulation of the emotional state of the squad members. Fighters, in addition to 25 unique units of small arms, can also use destructive parapsychological abilities. Binary Domain. A tactical third-person shooter with the ability to give orders to squad members. RPG elements and gunfights very reminiscent of Gears of War, where you can't get far without cover. The plot of Binary Domain is devoted to the confrontation between the powerful corporations from the United States and Japan in 2080, where after the global flood most of the Earth cities were underwater. Humanity, however, was able to adapt to the new conditions by beginning to build new upper cities using robots for this. However, with robots, it turned out to be not so simple. Many of them were created indistinguishable from humans and were not always used for peaceful purposes. To fight them, a detachment of peacekeepers was created with the main character as a commander. Your character can be pumped and equipped with modernized cannons, ideal for eliminating aggressive robots, of which there are more than 36 types in binary domain. Mirror's Edge, an action-adventure thriller set in a dystopian future. You will go to a city in which all means of communication are controlled by the state, and in order to convey a message that will not be recorded, people began to use the services of the so-called runners. One of these is the main character, Faith. The emphasis in the gameplay is on the movement system. Possessing amazing parkour skills, the girl is able to effectively overcome obstacles and quickly reach the checkpoint. There is action, but not as much as we would like. Another feature of the games is the almost complete absence of an interface, and therefore nothing prevents you from enjoying the original graphic style. ICEY, a fast-paced 2D platformer that takes gamers into the harsh world of Cyberpunk. Here you will find such opponents as mechanized spiders, giant robots, and many others. The visual component is in the style of anime, and you have to control a certain girl, ICEY, who at first glance seems harmless. The game has won many awards. Why is that? Firstly, the battles are fast enough and spectacular, and the gamer can combine attacks in various chains, which translates into huge damage and vivid special effects. Secondly, there is an interactive storytelling that helps the player to dive deeper into what is happening. The narrator will constantly turn to the heroine and order her, and if something does not go according to his plan, an instant reaction will follow. Katana Zero, one of the best indie of 2019, a ninja adventure in the cyberpunk world. According to the plot, the mercenary Zero is engaged in missions to eliminate targets, and during one of them he discovers the ability to control time. This is where a deep story begins, which, depending on the player's actions, will come to one of several endings. In terms of gameplay, this is a hardcore action platformer. Its main feature is the ability to manage time, namely to rewind it in critical situations. The sad news is that every enemy here can kill the main character with one hit. The game also stands out visually. Midnight, an unpopular multiplayer game with asymmetric gameplay. The gameplay is similar to what Dead by Daylight offers, but there are no maniacs here, and all events take place in one room. However, among all the participants there is a hacker whose goal is to deceive others. The innocent users will have to recognize the lie. It doesn't sound so right, but as soon as you find yourself in the game, you are imbued with what is happening. Each participant tries to find out who is the liar, and almost all arguments go into battle, how the players write in the chat, what emoticons they put, how much time they spend on the message. Try it yourself. The game is free. Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story. Horror in the style of Clock Tower or Coma, but with a touch of cyberpunk. Visually, the game is quite simple. Riddles will also not break the player's brains, but Sense has a spectacular main character and is full of ghosts. The game takes place in Neo, Hong Kong in 2083, in which the main character Mei Ling tries to get rid of the ancestral curse by exploring a ghostly apartments. Replaced, a retro-futuristic action platformer set in alternate states in the early 1980s. Players will have to control the AI, locked in a human shell in a dystopian and aggressive world that survived a nuclear disaster. Song of Farca, an adventure cyberpunk detective in which you play as a hacker girl who remotely investigates intricate cases using drones and other electronic devices. The Song of Farca release is scheduled for July 2021. Cyber Knights Flashpoint, tactical RPG with XCOM-style turn-based battles. Players will control a squad of hackers, mercenaries and professional thieves using augmentation, stealth technology, cybernetic animals and other phenomena of cyberpunk realities in battle. Stray, an adventure game set on the streets of a decaying cyber city inhabited by droids. You have to play as a cat who is friends with a tiny flying drone and is trying to find a way outside the strange metropolis. A multiplayer looter-shooter set in a cyberpunk world in which CyberCorp agents, up to 3 people in one session, will plunge into the thick of corporate wars. Action-packed neon street gunfights and an electronic soundtrack are included. The Last Night, The cinematic platform of The Last Night is a stylish sci-fi thriller in post-cyberpunk tones with hybrid 2D and 3D graphics. Players will have the opportunity to explore the districts of a futuristic, vibrant city imbued with the stories of its inhabitants. Gamedec, an isometric cyberpunk RPG featuring a detective specializing in crimes committed in virtual worlds. According to the developers, players will be free to decide how to act in a given situation, and the game will constantly adapt to their choices. The Ascent, a promising co-op action RPG with breathtaking gunfights and a mesmerizing cyberpunk world. Players will have a huge arsenal of weapons, augmentations, and gadgets at their disposal, and a spacious and varied arcology will be open for free exploration. System Shock, a remake of cult horror Cyber 1994, in which the players in the role of a hacker will go again in the terrible dungeons of the Citadel, where a tested new mutagenic virus to hack aggressive artificial intelligence rodent. The developers plan to release System Shock in the summer of 2021. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel, watch our other videos, press like, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.